en gång till. How do I find all the shapes and creatures and monsters in the negative space of my ink blots? I thought we'd take a look at one of my viral videos where I set the challenge for myself to find a zombie in an ink blot. And discuss a little bit about just watch it together, discuss how I made it happen, and perhaps even why it ended up being seen by a few million people. So let's press play and see what happens. So the first thing I always do is create the ink blot itself. And there's not really that much you can do. You do have a little bit of control over how the ink comes out, so you can use a lot or you can use little, but really this is random. But in this case, I already noticed what I would create a face from as soon as the ink blot was there. And it's this open nose shape and these two eye sockets that sort of define the shadows of a face for me. And looking back on it, I actually see 3 or 4 more faces, but I need to ignore that when I've first seen something. Oh, the opening of this drawing and the video is really bold, because what I thought I would do was to create an outline that made people immediately identify the zombie that I had seen. Problem was, of course, if you had seen one of the other million things you could see in the ink blot, the little shape I make creating the outline, defining the outline of the zombie, it's not going to help you. And I remember getting a lot of comments on this drawing saying, I didn't see the zombie until you put in the teeth at the end. And that sort of struck me back. But it was obvious. It's there. But once you see something, it's very hard to unsee it. And I guess that's one of the fun things about doing these ink monsters, is making people unsee something to see what I want them to see. And in some instances, if the art is really loose and sloppy, I can create something that you can see and unsee and see and unsee, and that goes a little bit back and forth. And that's, to me, that's one of the most fun things about making art, because it invites the beholder to participate in the art in a sense. I think so, yeah. So at this point of the drawing, I have sort of the image of head with some sort of shadow pattern on, and I'm trying to replicate that for the rest of the body as well. So you have this one, I imagine a bright light coming in from the left, and then a secondary light coming in from the right. And that's kind of ideal for these kinds of sloppy drawings, because that means you can play around with the black lines in the middle, and hopefully it'll become something. And for this one, I wanted to do a couple of more zombie buddies. I don't know why. I think maybe I had an idea for a video. Often when I do these, sometimes I have no idea what I'm going to draw at all. In this case, I specifically wanted to do a video where I found a zombie in a random blot, because then I could open it with saying, do you see that zombie? And zombies are sort of one of the easiest things to see in an ink blot, because as humans, we are trained to see faces, to recognize faces, to recognize intent, in a sense, to see what is just some shadows on a rock and what is a snow leopard waiting to jump you. And when you do a random blot, the first thing people are going to see is likely a face, but it's not going to be a pretty face because it's ink blots. It's just random. So taking that basic face and turning it into a zombie it's really kind of like cheating. It's the easiest version of drawing an ink monster that I've found. And that's not true. You can do easier stuff, but it's kind of easy. I say. I got a message here, but I'll ignore that for now. The other zombies that I did here are just the buddies of the main zombie, and I do like putting something into the background of the art. So even though my Ink Monster series is generally just one figure, it could be like the character sheets you got in old G.I. Joe comics, where Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes stood. Ooh, this is Commander Cobra. He is 6'5" tall. But by just putting something, a hint of something in the background, it makes it into more of the story. So by putting these zombies in behind it, it goes from being, this is Bob the zombie. He is 4'3" tall. He looks taller in the photos. And it becomes a zombie apocalypse. And that's with every art piece I do, that's always the point. Whether I have a story in mind or it's just exercise like this, the point is to hint at the story, to make the beholder, you, imagine something more than what you see on paper. Now, at this point, I'm going in with, I think I'm going in with white gouache to make the teeth. And I could have done the teeth in many different ways, but I thought that the open mouth was, again, it's not just a zombie, it's a zombie in the middle of an action. And I'm not that familiar with gouache. I usually have used a more liquid acrylic in order to do the white dots on these ink drawings. But in this case, I mean, the gouache actually covers the ink much better than a liquid acrylic, but there is another problem, which is what I'll face in a few minutes here, which is I do some white lines down from the mouth, and then go with red above it. But because if it's gouache, then they will start to mix, and the blood becomes a bit more pink than I would have liked. But you live and you learn. If I had done this with acrylic and just had waited long enough before mixing the white and the red, or just done a thick red on top, it might have worked better. At this point, if you see on the right side of the head, it can look like the zombie has a big mustache. And I think, yeah, I'm going in and taking away that mustache, which might have been a mistake in hindsight. Maybe it was the zombified version of Yosemite Sam. And, I just ruined zombie Yosemite Sam. Yeah, I think this is the point where I'm going in. This is what now I remember. It's been a while since I drew this, and now I remember I'm going in with ink and trying to do the red ink on top of the white paper and black ink. And red ink is transparent. It's transparent, and it won't cover the black. And that's why I stepped in and tried to cover it up with white acrylic and make the red ink stand out. But that was a bad idea. At this point, I think this is the point where the art looks as good as it'll ever look. But I wanted the red blood dripping through the black. And usually, I mean, these are sketches. I am very proud of them. I stand by them as finished drawings, but they are sketches. It isn't supposed to be a thing that's worked through to completion. It is something that is completed because it ended. And when I scanned it, and when I've used it for other types of things, like this drawing is one of the designs that we used for shoes. Then I've gone in and actually fixed the red, made it less pink and more red. And that works better, I think. But as an original drawing, I think, yeah, it's okay to have that to have the mistakes visible in the art. It makes the art more human, in a sense. Zombie more human. It sort of reminds me about one of the Illustrator tricks I learned when I was working as a freelance illustrator. That is, especially if you're working with an advertising agency or something like that, you have a lot of people who will step in and have something to say about your work. And if you send them something that looks very finished, they will say, no, this isn't what I wanted. Because one of the group will always say, no, this isn't what I wanted. But if you send them something that looks like a sketch, then they will allow their imagination to see it as as it will be when it's finished. So even when I did things for clients that were essentially finished, I would do a lot of wild pencil lines on top of it and to mess it up a little bit and make it more sketch-like and then send it. And then they would say yes, because the mistakes, the things that are missing, it invites you in. And I'm not sure that's applicable to Pink Blood, but yeah, I think there is something, especially in this age of, there's a mastery of art with companies like Disney and Blizzard, and they make incredible stuff, and AI is taking all that up, and at some point it will copy all of that shit perfectly. And what's left? It's human art. Human art full of clumsy things and mistakes. And if you, like Rob Liefeld did at one point, happen to draw 6 fingers, that's a human error. It's not stupid AI. Yeah, and I think, I forgot something. People always ask me, what's the sun or moon or circle in the end of the drawing? And yeah, maybe I'll reveal that in another video. But right now, this piece is up for free use, so you can download it, you can print it, you can change it, you can even sell it as long as you put my name on it. And all my art is available for free use. And if you think my art is cool and you want to support art for free use, art that can be used by the culture at large, then please support at patreon.com/KimHolm or buy merch at denungeherrholm.com, including the zombie shoes. I want some zombie shoes. I have the Color Out of Space shoes on me right now, and they're very good. But I need some zombie shoes. Can we order some zombie shoes for me?
Perhaps.
Perhaps. Thank you.